Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Geeky Clinicians podcast. And as always, I am your humble host, Dr. Deborah Dantzler, Chief Geek here at Geeky Clinicians. And I am so excited today that we have my esteemed friend and colleague as our guest today, Dr. Alicia Watkins. And so we're ready to get all the good nuggets from her. But before that, I will let our other geeky clinicians introduce themselves, starting with Sandra.
Hello, I am Sandra Strozier, and I am the third year PMRP here at 3D Psychotherapy.
And I am Beth Burmester. I am a first year PMRP, and I was also an intern. And I graduated in May from Agnes Scott College with my master's in clinical mental health counseling.
And I am Unique McAlpin Carter. It is my starting year of the PMP program, and I graduated with my master's in clinical mental health counseling from Clark Atlanta University.
Awesome. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. So, I'm going to read this very esteemed bio. So, Alicia Watkins, PhD, LCSW, is a licensed clinical social worker, certified clinical trauma professional, and full professor of social work with over 20 years of experience in the mental health field. Since becoming licensed in 2004, she has worked extensively with individuals, couples, and families navigating anxiety, depression, trauma, suicidality, and major life transitions. Her therapeutic approach is grounded in empathy, cultural humility, and a strengths-based perspective that honors the resilience of those she serves. As the founder of Coaching with Dr. Alicia, LLC, she specializes in helping couples build strong, intentional relationships through evidence-based tools rooted in communication, healing, and equity. Recognizing that many individual challenges are shaped by broader societal and systemic forces. Dr. Alicia currently serves as a full professor in the Master of Social Work program at the University of St. Francis, where she teaches courses in culturally competent practices, research methods, human development, feminist theory, and substance abuse treatment. A Fulbright Scholar, my friend's smart too. She taught in South America at the University of Guyana, focusing on mental health, stigma, suicide prevention, and trauma recovery. She holds a master's in social work from the University of Chicago and a PhD in social work from Florida State University. Dr. Alicia has authored 10 peer-reviewed publications and presented at over 20 professional conferences. Beyond her academic and clinical work, Dr. Alicia is a proud wife and mother of 3. She's a dedicated runner and reader and passionate traveler who draws inspiration from cultures and communities around the world. Welcome, Dr. Alicia. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you so much. I love to be the newest geek here. I love this whole geek.
Yes, because we just get really passionate about doing this clinical work. And clearly you are very passionate about doing this clinical work. Not only a very dedicated long career, but also the number of publications, very impressive. So one of the things that we always start with our guests here is we want to hear your origin story. We want to go all the way back, all the way back. What is your origin, your clinical origin story? How did you get interested in the field, and what was your journey to where you are now?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question to ask because it was intergenerational. I am the second generation therapist. So it's funny because I grew up around was born into a family where my parents had advanced degrees in child development. And And so I think my background is very unique in the sense where I had two parents that looked at child development and parenting similarly. Now, they did get divorced. My parents got divorced, but my dad remarried someone who was also a therapist. So my entire childhood, I think divorce can be traumatic, but I think divorce can be not so traumatic if you have a how are you feeling, Alicia? With all these things that I grew up with. And so, my parents were children of the nonviolence, no war, anti-war movement.
Mm.
So kind of what do you call them? Like hippies, I guess you would say. So it was just, it was sort of that allow and not very controlling environment. And so being the second generation of a community of people who are dedicated to healing an entire population of people. And remember, in the 80s, I grew up in the 80s during the crack epidemic.
Mhm.
My parents weren't on crack, but they worked with and dealt with a lot of people who are affected by a lot of the economic and social issues happening from Gary, Indiana. And then I would spend my summers in Tuskegee, Alabama. And so that's sort of been kind of exposed to the areas of healing and helping people. So that is basically how I came about it, honestly. Yeah.
Awesome. So basically almost born to be a therapist in some ways, right?
Yeah.
Like having
And continuing, some of the things that I witnessed my parents do firsthand.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that social justice mindset, that advocacy, that you could
Mhm.
search and fight for equity for all peoples. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how you got to find your niche with the
hmm
populations that you serve, right? Because like you said, your parents, their their niche was child and adolescent development. And
Yeah.
and so, but your focus is primarily couples, is that correct?
Yeah, I really do. I've always been fascinated with how and why someone picks the person that they have as their life partner. Why
Mhm.
this person? Why not another person? And you really are, I found, working out some of your issues. You're working them out from the past in the present in this relationship, which really makes, according to Carl Jung, it really makes the person that you are interacting with a very special category of a person. It's not like, and it's not like a working relationship, although very similar. It's not like being a parent or being a child. The person you pick as your intimate partner, the, that's the first person, your first relative. That's it. That's your person. If something happens to you, they're making a decision in the hospital. So it's a very unique category. And I think that so many things that are not dealt with or not handled earlier on gets projected onto our partner. And I just find that to be so fascinating, yet a great opportunity to grow and to explore and to heal and to I really love working with couples and giving them the reality of what it means to be in a relationship. So many people don't have the right mindset when it comes to marriage and relationships, where they have this sort of view that to be married and to be happy means you don't argue. Well, I encourage couples to where's the friction there? And so it's really great working with new couples. I've worked with couples, newlywed couples, and couples who've been together 30, 40 years, and somehow they still haven't figured it out. The fourth marriage, and they're still searching and figuring these things out. And I do not put stigma on how many times you've been married, as long as that you are continuing to, gosh, be courageous enough to just open yourself up to another person like that. I think that should be commended, right? But I also think that it's a great opportunity to reflect back and to look at the dynamic that's happening right now and how to disrupt some of those patterns that aren't working. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
healing moment, couples.
Oh yeah, I love
Yeah.
that perspective. I don't
Mhm.
work with couples, but I love that you said it's a there's opportunity for disruption when working with couples. Disruption is one of our core values here at 3D Psychotherapy, because we believe that you have to disrupt those old patterns that aren't serving you anymore in order to heal and move forward. So yes. Questions for Dr. Alicia?
Now, I have a statement about that disrupting the patterns.
Okay.
You know, we work with people and they're so uh, it's uh, it's fuzzy. You don't really know what's happening. Like it's like, what was this experience like for you? And sometimes people can't even put words to it. They don't even know. But to be able to disrupt, it's so important because you have to be able to get what's happening in clear view and a good picture of that. And then when you do that, it's gonna disrupt it because you're like, what's gonna happen next? This is not my fault that you're in.
Dr. Alicia, your audio, something's happening with your audio.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
I've had people say this. Hold on, let me grab another headphone.
Fuzzy. Yeah,
Okay.
it's like a kaleidoscope. Things in your life are just happening and you know something isn't right. And then you go and you talk to someone and you're able to like dial it in like a kaleidoscope into like clear focus. And then you're
Yes.
able to like, oh, I get it now. I know what's going to happen. This is always happening. And that's a great way to like get that clarity that you need in order to disrupt it.
Absolutely. We have a framework here, awareness, acceptance, and action, because we believe you can't change anything you're not aware of. And to be able to see those patterns clearly, that's the only way you're going to be able to disrupt them. So yeah, that's awesome. Questions for Dr. Alicia?
I have a question, Dr. Watkins. So when you say disruption, can you give an healthy example of disruption? Because I've spoken with some friends and they've been in relationships and they have disagreements or they have those conversations, those crucial conversations or hard conversations that lead to, unfortunately, domestic violence or some unwanted behavior. So what would be a good, healthy form of disruption in a relationship?
Well, I'll give you an example. Suppose you're working with a couple and maybe the dynamic in the husband, we'll just say this is a heterosexual couple and the husband is not being vulnerable. So the wife is complaining about a lack of intimacy, let's just say. And you start talking about family of origin and you get to the place where, okay, he was someone who was the oldest of 5 children, and he was the hero of the family. He was the star child. He took care of everybody. He was the person who made sure that his younger sister, when she came home from school, made sure the homework was done. He took on this parenting role growing up, and he got a lot of pride, and he received positive affirmations for that, but he never really discovered what it was like to be a child himself because he was taking on these parenting roles because his mom, it was a single household family, and the mom was working. And so he had to be almost like a surrogate husband in a way. And we see this dynamic a lot. So he's in this relationship and his wife is saying, be vulnerable with me. I noticed that you don't open up. You don't talk about how you're feeling. Well, yeah, that makes sense because he never practiced that when he was younger because he had to forego what was happening with him to take care of everybody else, right? So for being forced to grow up. But in this relationship, I challenged him. You could challenge a person in a relationship like this to say, wait, do you notice times where you are not being vulnerable when you really feel like you should? Right. And being aware of that, that's what I love, this awareness and acceptance. Are you aware? Do you think about times where you have wanted to open up to your wife or your partner and you did not, you held back because that's what you were kind of bred to do. And so giving them the green light to, in those moments, notice it and then say, you know what, I'm going to be vulnerable right now because that is what I need, because I'm feeling lonely too. I feel like I don't have anybody who really knows me and gets to know me. And how are you going to have connection with someone if you're not vulnerable with them and put those guards down? So that's a good example, I think, of how a person can make the decision to do something different. It's a conscious effort, and it's bringing all of that up on a conscious level so that you can say, I'm going to make this right because I don't want my household to be broken up. I don't want to go to an empty house where all I'm doing is paying the bills and I'm not enjoying the family life and I'm not having fun with my partner. And my wife is always mad at me because she doesn't know what's going on. I don't communicate how I'm feeling with her. I'm passive aggressively acting. All the things that happen in relationships that get on your nerves. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Other questions for Dr. Alicia?
Yeah, my question is, so I work with, and our practice kind of specializes as a niche in adult children and also partners of those who have antagonistic personality traits and are on the narcissism scale. And so I'm just curious if you have worked with couples where one person is that, and what sort of advice you can give, especially in terms of we're working with individuals, but there are times when it seems like um, to say, well, we're working on your side of this, but maybe you should consider a couples therapist. But
Mhm.
that equation changes a little bit when you're dealing with, it seems like narcissistic personality traits who might be less likely to be self-aware or desire change because they have what they want from the relationship.
Mhm. So are you saying that you work with a lot of the people on the receiving end of this narcissist? Oh, so you're giving hey, it's a reason why that's the person they chose. So I'm imagining that you're getting into what was happening there, that you are attracted to this particular person, and what do you need to learn? And how do you need to now speak up for yourself and hold firm to boundaries, even if you jeopardize the relationship? And sometimes it might be jeopardized. Yeah, absolutely. You know, um, Individuals have choices to make, even when I work with couples, and I do see that dynamic, that pattern a lot. The people who have those narcissistic tendencies, they're very insecure. They have a lot of unhealed trauma that has been morphed into this other end of insecurity, which is like you thinking that you're better than everyone, which underneath that is a big sense of insecurity. So it's even letting the person on the receiving end of being in an intimate relationship with someone who disregards them, who perpetually puts them down, it's giving them the strength to stand up and to speak up for themselves and giving them the tools to do that. And sometimes when I work with couples and I see this dynamic happen, I do kind of, if I see it happening in front of me, I will break that. And I will catch a little bit of that myself and say, hold on, wait, you do not have the right to do this. I will confront that person, and then, but of course you have to be connected to them first in order to do that, because I have made that mistake many years ago of just like diving in because I'm all into my feminist work, but I'm having to question. And I have had, believe it or not, I have had couples come around. I'm not one of those people that feels like if you are so far into this narcissistic end that you can't be salvaged, you can't be saved, that let's just throw them all away, which is what we see a lot in social media. It's just like they can never ever change. I think that we've had several instances and several examples of how, if they really want to and do the work, they actually can come down from this narcissistic place and start dealing with that inner child that's really, really hurt and reacting in that way. So I hope that answered your question, but yeah, that's a really great question. Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, narcissistic abuse, antagonistic relational stress, that is definitely one of the things that we specialize in here. And Beth and Jacinta are about to start a group, I think, if it's not later this month, early next month, about antagonistic families or antagonistic relational stress within the family system, I think is what the group is titled. But in terms of like working with couples, like I said, I don't work with couples. The only person of our our geeky clinicians here who is interested in working with couples and will start working with couples will be Unique. And so we need to get some couples on Unique's calendar. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Questions for Dr. Alicia?
I do. I have a question on how you think social media is almost either helping or not helping a lot of the couples seek counseling or therapy if needed, or even causing couples to normalize certain behaviors because they do see it so often now on your For You page. Because one thing that I think people don't realize is the For You page on TikTok, it's gonna do it's gonna show you whatever you move towards. So if you're liking, the videos and pictures of things that remind you of your relationship, and you're like, well, if I keep seeing it's fine, then I'm not gonna want to seek counseling. Now that's just again me saying it, but do you think that's accurately happening even out in the field?
I know this is happening, this gender war happening that's promoted on social media. And like, seriously, I have like my For You page is gonna show a whole nother side of things. It's gonna show, interesting enough, my For You page, because I follow you, Deb, and all of us, it's gonna show us a whole nother side where I will go to another woman's page and it will show men ain't nothing and men, and just really filter into this gender war. And then I'll go to a guy's For You page. Glad you're bringing this up. And his will be all of these women. It will be women on there who are kind of like I don't know, for lack of a better word, I would say pick me women, I call them, but I really shouldn't label someone so derogatory, but it'll be these catering to men, and it'll be men who have a lot of anger. And so I do see this side, and I just can't believe how you can really be sucked into these sort of echo chambers online, and never are the two to cross. So imagine them in a relationship. You're working out your issues with women on this particular person. And I think it's, people who are on social media, a lot of times, I do it because of my business. I have to, but I have noticed that the mental health issues and the unresolved issues, how they are related. And I like social media. It is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's raising awareness, almost like ChatGPT. I like when my clients use ChatGPT. It's actually beautiful because most of the information on ChatGPT is really congruent with something I would say. However, it's a double-edged sword because where social media is giving people who are hurt a place to vent and to talk about their hurt, but what they're doing with it is they're turning into an us and them situation, which is really moving into this gender divide. And it is really unfortunate. And I'm online quite a bit. And I went through a whole rash of submission. And I said, what is this whole thing about women submitting? I'm like, I'm sorry. Yeah. I've been trained in the Gottman method. I've been trained with relational life, which is Terry Real, and the late great Sue Johnson. I've been trained in all of those things. I said, not once did I ever go to a training that talked about women need to submit. Okay, it's a biblical term, but this is where I was talking about pastors' advice. It's not going to be the same as evidence-based practice. So I have to speak from that point. And there's all sorts of interpretations of the Bible. Okay. And so, no, I'm not going to promote spanking children. I'm not going to promote submission. I'm not going to promote these things because there's alternate definitions of those, by the way. So, yeah, I mean, it really gets into, it makes it difficult for us. And we're not, like I talked to my husband. I don't know if people know Dr. Boyce Watkins is my husband, and he has a large social media following. And so I always say, you know, he's a professional speaker. I'm a professional listener. So I'm not going to be as catchy and word phrase, and I'm not going to rhyme when I speak. I'm not a preacher. I'm not trained in speaking about these things, but I'm trained as a listener and I hear a lot of things. So I do think when we do open our mouth and speak, it's unfortunate that we don't have the, I don't know, what is it called? We need to go viral because our words aren't combative. And I'm not going to be loud, and I'm not going to call people names, and I'm not going to be splitting where I'm like, this is all men are just horrible. You know, that's catchy and exciting. So we are at an uphill battle. What do y'all think? I'm curious about what you guys think about that question, because Unique brings up something really kind of interesting.
Yeah, no, I think that that's a great point. But here it is. It's in some ways it becomes our professional responsibility to get in those social media streets and combat some of that craziness, because there are people out there who are loud and wrong.
80% of relationship advice you hear is like not
Exactly.
accurate.
So it becomes our responsibility to go out there, even though it's uncomfortable. Like you said, we're professional listeners. This isn't, we didn't, there's no social media 101 class in any of our clinical mental health or social work programs. But yet now, and this is the way the world is going, because they're going to Instagram therapists, TikTok therapists, Facebook therapists, and they're getting information from people who may not be qualified, adequately licensed, and they might be getting further harmed. So how do we, as a profession, advocate, get out there, get out of our comfort zone, and give out good evidence-based information to help support the people? I don't know. What do you guys think? What do my postmasters residents think?
Well, I mean, because I brought up the question, one thing I had to realize is when I was working in the community, because I did my internship at Covenant House, Georgia, a lot of the youth there very much had that, oh, men do one thing, women do another thing. And they come to me and they would try to ask me, they're like, well, why do men do this? Why do men do that? And I'm like, well, let's start with, why are you attracted to those kind of men? Why are you attracted to those kind of women? Because I can tell you right now, you haven't seen all of the world. This bubble you lived in is not every single man in the world. This bubble you lived in is not every single woman in the world. So then I try to bring the conversation back to, well, what do you think is happening that you're attracting the people that you don't like in the world? Like, what do you think? What's going on? Because I don't think anyone ever asked them that question. Like, why are they all then, like, why am I surrounded by it? And it's like, okay, then yeah, why are you surrounded by it? Let's start diving into that question of assuming, instead of assuming everybody's going to be like that, what's going on in the bubble? What's going on around the bubble? Because the bubble ain't the whole United States, the bubble isn't the whole world. This is a bubble. Atlanta is still a bubble as big as it is.
That is
Yeah.
so great. That's like, it's mind control. It's definitely mind control. And you asking them that question is snapping them out of this mind control. It's removing them. And just the question in and of themselves, I'm sure they're probably still asking themselves that question even to this day. Just the question itself is beautiful. That is great, Unique.
Yeah, I think I like to use cognitive reframing when clients come in with something like that, that's kind of a really big issue, but maybe one that is being viewed in a very through a narrow way. Like, and it could be pragmatic, this thing just happened. And so that is like the laser focus. And then we can, okay, well, let's take a helicopter view of that issue, and let's look at what shows up when we pull away. Or, I've heard you frame it in this way, but what happens in your body if it's framed in this way? And how do you think about that? How can that kind of shift what you're thinking and feeling? And now, could you do that yourself and see if you can also get that reduction in anxiety? Or so I found that really helpful. Um, I'm still, I would say, as a clinician, wary of social media, like just a little bit nervous about putting stuff out there. And that, like, Dr. Danzer said, I think as clinicians, we have an advocacy, an almost ethical drive to help people who might not be able to come into therapy. And so to get some of our methods or, takes on certain things, I think is a very good thing. Um, but then I'm concerned about how do you actually engage with um, people through that social media? Like, I don't want to be giving therapy advice to someone in a comment, but if they leave a comment, do I have a responsibility, and how much time do I actually have to spend doing this? And then it's like, okay, how is this actually complementing what I'm doing one-on-one with people? So it's sort of like it's that big swimming pool, and I've like put my toe in and then stepped back, and I keep looking at it, but I would say I'm not in it yet.
Yes. And Beth, you make
Yeah.
a great
Yeah.
point
Yeah, she
there,
does.
because what is our ethical responsibilities and
Mhm.
limitations as the professional, and what can we do and can't we do when interacting in the social media world? We have a social media policy. It's in the handbook. And so we actually can't engage, right? So if somebody puts something in the comments, we want to just redirect them to the website. We want to redirect them into the practice. We want to redirect them, because what we're not going to do is wind up getting into a back and forth with somebody in a public forum, and then we be kind of liable for whatever, responsible for clinically whatever happens with this person. That we can't do. We can't. It's not good for them. It's not good for us. So we want to be able to acknowledge comments, but directing them back into the practice and say, if you want to talk deep, if you want to talk further, here's the way to do that, and we do that within our practice.
Mhm.
No, you do bring up something great. It happened recently where this gentleman was a therapist, and he had this big what is it when they go gaming? What's the gaming platform? I wish I had known.
Fortnite.
Twitch?
What'd you
Is
say?
it Twitch? Is that what it's called?
Twitch.
Like Twitch
Yeah, he had a
streaming?
Twitch
Yeah.
streaming. I can't remember his name, but he was asking he himself was a therapist. He wasn't operating as a therapist, but he was asking them questions about mental health and just trying to get a big sense of it. And it was one of them who unalived themselves after he had been in contact with the therapist, social media wise. He wasn't in the purview of a therapist or anything, but there was case study on that. Someone turned him in, and he actually did get in trouble because even though he was not operating as a therapist, he was still, people knew that he was a therapist and he was licensed. And just having people know that about himself and asking questions about mental health, he had that ethical responsibility, and he did get in trouble and got his license. He got sanctioned for and got in trouble for a while. It's very famous. This guy on Twitch had like millions of followers, and I don't know, Twitch can get a lot of people on there. And so it didn't turn out the way it should. And so he did a whole ethical case on it. And the guy came out and speaks publicly about this, but you need a lot of disclaimers when you're in social media. You definitely need to really think about what it was and what they did. They cited that when you are on social media and you are putting on your social media handle that you are a therapist, you in and of yourself are representing the profession. And that's what they got him on. They said, no, you're representing the profession. And so all exchanges that you have on social media has to be ethically done, because you are tarnishing the view of therapists. And we can't have that. And that was the reason why they got him, even though he wasn't operating in a way where he was therapist relationship, but that's how they got him. And I paid very close attention to that whole thing because I'm always online. So you do need to be mindful of that.
Yes. Oh, wow. I hadn't heard about that guy, but wow, that is really scary. And I do think the world is changing, right? Like there's kind of, in some ways, as business owners, there's some way we cannot not be on social media. We have to in order to promote our business and do all this stuff, but being mindful around those limitations and things like that. And especially for the PMRPs who are in that process of working towards licensure, you're working really hard to get there. You don't want to have anything hiccups going towards it. And we already, who have our licenses, certainly don't want to do anything to have it taken away.
No, that's really interesting because I do a lot of stuff online with my husband, and I have had to like consciously make decisions where I am not going to speak as if I'm his wife having a conversation. I have to totally say, no, I'm speaking from a clinical perspective, and this is ethical practice. And I'm like, and if there's things that are out there that is not evidence-based practice, I do take it upon my responsibility to kind of clear the air and say, no, I remove myself from this comment because that is not ethical and that's not what we know now. And we do need to be careful, Beth. I love what you're saying because I was thinking about self-selection bias. You know, you have all these examples and you're only paying attention to what is adhering to what you already believe. But maybe there's other things that you're not even paying attention to that's counter what you think that it has to be. And so we're so biased in our perspective. Yeah, your lived experience is important, but you know what? How you encompass, how you interact with the world depends on a lot of things. Did you get enough sleep that night? Are you hungry? Are you not hungry? Are you happen to be mad at somebody? It's colored by so many sensory things that's happening to you. So you have to check your biases. So self-selection bias is a big issue. Even dealing with commenting and reflecting on how people see the world. Yeah, absolutely.
Any final questions from the PMRPs before I ask our final wrap-up question? No? Okay. Oh, Dr. Alicia, this has been so wonderful. Before I ask the final wrap-up question, of course, your contact information will be in the show notes, but just tell everybody how they can reach out to you, find you, go and watch your wonderful podcast. Yes.
Oh my God. I have a podcast. It's about healing conversations about healing, not about the gender divide. It's about the gender reunion. It's about that. It's about healing yourself. And I have a lot of fun on there. And I talk about everything healing, but I bring therapists in, but I also get into the spirituality of who and what you are and spiritual development. I do dabble into some of that arena too, because I think that we do need to see ourselves here three-dimensionally, but we also need to, what you say, the helicopter? We need to take the helicopter into space. And we need to see the whole world and how everything is put together. And I think those types of conversations is important. Of course, as a social worker, I do look at the macro systems and deconstruct how much of it is you and how much of it is macro. So anyway, if you want to follow me on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, it's Coaching with Dr. Alicia on all of the platforms. And my website is coachingwithdralicia.com.
Awesome. Excellent. Okay, so Dr. Alicia, the question we ask all of our guests here is, what are your best hopes? What are your best hopes for our profession, for emerging social workers and clinicians? What are your best hopes for the future of our field?
You know, right now it is, I think that we're in a very sad state. I think a lot of things that have happened that have been very progressive have been reversed in a lot of ways. So my hope is to hold on to hope. And, you know, my hope is that when we come out of this, and I think that we will come out of this, I think that there is a bigger plan in place. And my hope is that this will remind everybody how important empathy is. My hope is for all of us to get into a mindful state, to start practicing mindfulness. That is my hope. I really think that mindfulness practice, that's something else to talk about, is really the answer to everything. And again, we talk about this. There's no such thing as the perfect relationship. There is no such thing as the perfect childhood. Even me being raised by a therapist, it wasn't always perfect. And perfection is unrealistic. And I think that if you get into a place of mindfulness, you start to become aware and you start to learn how your past experiences really shape who you are. And that's the beauty of the whole thing. It's just the self-awareness, the acceptance of yourself. I love this, the disruption of things that don't serve you anymore. I really hope that we, you know, it's like we're going backwards in a lot of ways, but maybe it is a way for us to really go forward and really push this whole avenue of healing. I think that once we come out of this dark era, I'm gonna call it the dark ages, that there's going to be some healing that needs to happen. And so hopefully we will get there in my lifetime, definitely. So I really love to want to carve out time in your life to set things on hold so that you can go into the classroom and into the clinical world unique like you did, and to really do this type of work. You don't get paid for it. And when you do, it's not very much. It's a labor of love. And my hope is that it really pays off with healing and mindfulness, for sure.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Alicia. Thank you so much for your time, for being here, for these words of wisdom. We could go on for at least another hour. So we may have to have you back for a part two at some point in the future. So thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. And to our viewers, thank you guys for watching. And if you have not already done so, like, subscribe, share this video, and we will see you on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.